Brett was bad in bowl games. And realistically, and I've done this before, break it down when when games were Badgers were not favored or tight, pedestrian.
Did they win the Cheez-It Bowl? Weren't they? They were in the whatever was in Orlando because it's the Pop-Tart Bowl and the Cheez-It Bowl.
I think at that point might have been still the Outback.
Illinois playing in that.
Oh, yeah. You're talking with Illinois. I was saying that Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I don't know what Illinois did.
Yeah. Well,
but
just to add to your point, like, did they even they were one of the better teams in the Big Ten this year. They made it to a decent bowl game, and I don't know if they fell flat in that one. But
but like Brett didn't win these bowls. They lost the Rose Bowl. They didn't win. Barry was a guy that won these things. And Paul did it to an extent too. Paul was better in the bowl games than Brett was, I think, just again off the top of my head. So unfortunately nowadays the bowl games just don't. I always kind of thought they were a little pomp and circumstance and they were glorified exhibition games because they didn't carry any weight. But it meant it had more weight back then. Now, if it's not a college football playoff or a premium bowl, it really doesn't carry much because kids are going to leave or transfer on their way out. And we'll get into all that, the transfer portals and things like that, and we'll talk about that all summer because hopefully there'll be a way to at least tighten it up for the players and for the teams that we can have just more understandable player movement, and these players all deserve to be paid. But the Wisconsin the draft in Green Bay, the Wisconsin Badgers, the first Badger taken was a former Badger in Chimere Dike. And fifth round, first pick of the fifth round to the Titans. Love it for him. Graham Mertz to the Texans, wild. We had Matt Miller on Jim, Matt, and Molly, and he had Graham Mertz as a undraftable player, like maybe an undrafted free agent at best. So that's a wild pick. You're kind of at one of those. They're probably, if the Texans drafted on like, hey, the guy had pedigree, and maybe, pedigree-wise, he can give a good scout team look because he's got the arm strength, and I don't know what his mobility is anymore, but like he has some things he could give you. But for the actual players leaving Wisconsin and going to the NFL draft, you had Wohler and Nelson picked late, and some Badgers were picked up Renfro picked up as undrafted free agent. So
or Joe Huber.
Or Huber, I'm sorry.
Joe Huber.
Huber, undrafted free agent. Renfro's the one around. I get those two, for whatever reason, in my head mixed up. But those players, obviously not high picks, not what we're used to at Wisconsin. And that got Badger fans all worked up about like, hey, this is another sign that Fickell can't get it done. And I want to hear, and we'll get to Ian Fitzsimmons' cut about Fickell a little bit later. Chris Ballard was on Great Dane Huddle. Ian Fitzsimmons was on with me and Alex Strofe on Friday, 12 to 2 as part of our draft coverage. Ian Fitzsimmons is an ESPN national host, and we also, Chris Ballard, joined the Great Dane Huddle with Alex G. and Barry Alvarez and Tarek and Derek, and Ballard, a former Badger, and the GM of the Colts, who picked Hunter Wohler. And we'll get to some of his thoughts. But I just thought that fans freaking out about the Badgers not having draftable picks and putting it on Fickell was a bit wild to me, as far as if you're worried about player development under Fickell, I'm sorry, like, that's not why Hunter Wohler. Let's look at these two, and then Pablo, let you come in there. Hunter Wohler was drafted in the 7th round, not because he wasn't productive and didn't get better at Wisconsin. His tape, which would be what Fickell is responsible for, is what his saving grace was. It would be his some of the other stuff that people didn't love. And it could be RAS score or whatever, but it's the athleticism that was questioned for Hunter Wohler. That's why he fell. The production was unquestionably there. And so it's to the point of now he's being moved to linebacker. He might play some strong safety, kind of a hybrid role, but if he's a linebacker, he's got better athleticism for a linebacker than a safety. Jack Nelson, look, under Paul Christ, before Fickell even got there, was up and down, and I guess in theory you could put that one a little bit more in production, but again, this isn't about development because guys bounce around all the time. It's about talent. And more than ever, it's about money. It's about the ability to identify talent, and it's finding talent to have an instant impact because you can only count on these guys 1 year at a time. So the Badgers do need to get better at draftable players, but let's also remember this. We had Evan Cohen on, and he's from a different era of watching Badger football. I mean, same era as me, but he goes back to the Barry Alvarez era where the Badgers didn't turn out a lot of pros. Ron Dane being one of the higher picked ones, and he underperformed in the NFL. Not a single Badger fan cares. So, like, why, as a Badger fan, why do you even care? I understand there's a trickle down sort of like, oh, if they're good in college, or if they're going to be drafted, that means they were good in college, which means we have a better college program. Barry Alvarez showed you don't have to turn out pros to have a good college program, or even under Brett, a lot of his pros were undrafted free agents. You got to care about college production. So don't try to make something out of nothing. They do need more talented players, but the draft is not some giant indictment of Luke Fickell.
It's the straw man situation here. That's what this is, where Riley Yalker, producer, and I were talking about this too, where it's also just a strategy of like, what are teams looking for? You know, it's again, it's not saying that it's an indictment on Wisconsin players. It's not an indictment on Luke Fickell right now, because it is it's still somewhat of a transitional thing. This will be the first season, it feels like, where Luke Fickell's true recruits probably will be moving into more starting roles or more prominent roles. Whereas, like, again, there's just a lot of moving pieces because we're in that transfer portal, because we're in that NIL era. And it's just a different time of college football where, again, you don't get those consistent 3-4 year guys unless really you're a true blue blood and you're paying these guys like, you know, you're in Ohio State. You're losing money, essentially, in order to win a national championship because of the NIL collective and what you're paying these players.
Look at Michigan. They were terrible this year compared to expectations, and how many first-round picks do they have? I mean, they had Loveland. Did Grant end up being a first-round pick? They had Mason Graham. Grant was projected to be one. Maybe it was a second-rounder, but Will Johnson in the second round. There was a preponderance of Michigan players picked in the top 100 picks just this last weekend. So that team wasn't good. But you know what they all had, Pablo, is they all had an incredible ability to be able to go out and dominate on the actual football field. And like dominate in the scouting stuff and the RIS scores. They had all that, plus they had enough on tape. But
3 first-rounders, all within the first 15.
Right.
So you had Mason Graham at 5 going to Cleveland, the defensive tackle. Colson Loveland, the Bears tight end, which for some reason on the Michigan website he's listed as a Bronco. So maybe there's something, Jim, you and I don't know.
Okay, maybe.
It also ties a program record for first-round draft picks for Michigan after one of their worst years in quite some time, which I think proves your point.
Well, and another thing, too, with going off of that, a couple years ago when Luke Fickell was at Cincinnati, they were the third, I believe, they had 9 players drafted the year after they were in the college football playoff. 9 players, I believe, were drafted that year. That was second to like Alabama and Georgia. They had the third most drafted players. So attack Luke Fickell all you want in this one and say he doesn't have a roster. He's coming into a brand new era of Wisconsin, football. And again, or not just Wisconsin football, college football and college sports. Like I just don't feel like that I agree with this argument saying that Luke Fickell can't develop talent.
Yeah, and Sauce Gardner.
Big
higher
example.
than any Badger that's ever been picked that I can think off the top of my head. So and he's legitimately crushing it in the NFL too. So I do want to get to a couple different things, but I told Riley we're going to get to a video of Barry Alvarez on the idea of the Badgers and having high draft picks consistently year in and year out.
It's great.
Well, I think the more exposure you get,
and I think people,
the more we get our players around.
We are
the country,
in an instant. We want
teams,
success right
the
now.
better
Nobody
it is
wants to
to
build
sell our
anything.
program.
If we can pause
It
this,
helps
we'll
recruiting.
There we go.
It's good for our fans. It's somebody for them to follow, and it's just healthy for the program. It's healthy for football at the university.
And that's Barry Alvarez. And then you also heard Ian Fitzsimmons talking. So when you have that ready, Riley, let me know because we'll play that one as well. Because Ian Fitzsimmons, I asked him a question about Badger players and unprompted. I didn't ask him about Luke Fickell. I asked him about Badger players, and he unprompted. It's like Fickell's a winner, and he's going to win at Wisconsin. So if that one's ready, we can go ahead and play that.
When you turn on the tape of Wisconsin Badger, especially on the defensive side or on the offensive line, right, you know you're getting a boy dog warrior. And I'm a big Luke Fickell guy. Good. So Badger fans, give him time. I'm telling you, he will bring a winner here. That dude refuses to lose. Look what he did at Cincinnati, taking them to the college football playoff. So, give him. I get the feeling that some of the natives are starting to get a little restless.
I would say that's accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, Fickell, don't lose. Just give him time. This NIL portal war we're living in sucks. Yeah. But when it comes to the 3 guys you mentioned, when it comes to where they're going to land, they're the kind of guys like best player available. If they're there, take them.
Fickell, don't lose. That's what Fitzsimmons said.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I want to see this year. So we were talking about this earlier too in show prep and is this the season of, is this a make or break season? Do you feel like it's a make or break season for Wisconsin and Luke Fickell right now?
I mean, if they look as incompetent as they did last year at certain moments, especially offensively, then yes. But if they win 7 games or 6 games, no, because back-to-back seasons. Let's put out a little context here for Luke Fickell, 3-time American Conference Coach of the Year, 2021 Bear Bryant Coach of the Year, won obviously multiple Coach of the Year awards in 2021. As a head coach, even with how bad it's been at Wisconsin, he's 76-38, and got to the Peach Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. As notable bowls, he got the other bowls coaching Cincinnati as well. But 13-1 Cotton Bowl, they lost. AP rank a high is 2. I think what we have to do.
They were ranked 2nd?
That's their max rank.
Whew.
I think what we have to do at Wisconsin is take a hard look at the talent wasn't here. And I think that's what Mac realized when he let Paul go. And it's going to be a big hill to climb. And I will die on this hill. Unless Jimmy Leonard's getting lucked into better health, I don't know if the Badgers are doing a lot better. Because I think it's fair to say, over the last 2 years, losing your starting quarterback, now having a good backup with this offense, there's layers to this, but losing your starting quarterback early, both seasons, probably accounts for at least 1 win each of those seasons, which means they're back-to-back bowl eligible, which means everyone feels a little bit different about it. Draftable players. You think Van Dyke, if he plays a whole season, is he picked over Graham Mertz? No, that's not a high bar to cross, but yeah, probably. Mm-hmm. So there's little extenuating circumstances. The Badgers over this upcoming year and last year have unquestionably a top 5 difficult schedule in all of college football. And I think Luke Fickell is going to, especially with this switch to more of a traditional Big Ten offense that Wisconsin can run, I think the Badgers are going to look competent. I think they're going to win 7 games this year. And who knows what happens in the bowl game. And I think this is going to turn Wisconsin the right way. So I get what Ian Fitzsimmons is saying, is that the Badgers have been teams that win. And Luke Fickell is a team that wins. So I think you got to give Fickell a little bit of a window here to turn around some pedestrian talent. Because if you're going to go back, so Fickell has coached 2 seasons at Wisconsin. The guys drafted were, and I understand the transfer portal is important, but that's Paul Chryst talent. Mm-hmm. So Paul Chryst talent tells you have 7th rounders, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to hear crap on Paul Chryst, but that would be the way to look at it. Because especially Hunter Wohler, he fell in the draft because of not off the field like bad things, but like measurables. That's why he fell. So that's not a Luke Fickell not developing him. That's Hunter Wohler not fitting the mold you want to be a certain position.
Yeah, that's where I feel like with the development too, and another level where we're talking about Sauce Gardner. Riley actually, I remember we bring this up a couple years ago when Sauce Gardner on the Hard Knocks New York Jets year too. Like it was when Sauce was starting to emerge and become like this big rookie that everyone was excited for. You know, I asked Luke Fickell about how he feels like, you know, in terms of like Sauce being himself and being a leader. Here's what he had to say.
He's not ready for that.
He was not ready for it. False start.
Well, that's unfair to you, Pablo, and to Riley, because Ben Brust sat down here, so I told him, hey, I'm going to do Steinhaffel's read, get the Steinhaffel's commercial ready. So,
okay. Well, false start. But he did. So Luke Fickell did, to add some context on it, pretty much talked about how Sauce is his himself. Like, it's not about, like, you have to be like this type of leader. Luke Fickell embraces, like, be yourself. Be who you want to be in that locker room. Don't, like, feel like you have to be like this persona, and this persona only is about how you win. Because he described, you know, Sauce as a happy-go-lucky guy. He's him. That's why he's successful in the locker room like that, because of, like, how he carries himself in that positive manner. You don't have to be this, like, absolute dog that's barking at everybody left and right. That's one way to succeed if you feel like that's your way. But I think Luke Fickell really gets to those guys in a good way of just developing them and letting them embrace be who they are.
So we're going to have Ben Brust join us in a minute. He's got, I'm sure, some takes on Badger football, the draft with the Badgers, and he's going to tell us about Made 'em Believe, an event coming up. And we'll talk about plenty of other things, including Badger basketball. They added another player. But it's Steinhaffel's Memorial Day mattress sale. Save up to $900 on select adjustable base sets. Plus, get up to $300 in Steinhaffel's cash. And take advantage of Steinhaffel's special 60-month financing. Get a Queen Tempur-Pedic mattress for only $48 a month. A Beauty Rest Black mattress for only $36 a month. And an Avocado mattress for only $26 per month. Steinhaffel's is Wisconsin's mattress leader. Shop in-store or online at steinhaffels.com.
Steinhaffel's Memorial Day preview sale starts now. Save 10% off store-wide. Plus, get amazing deals like this Sealy mattress any size now $199. A cocktail table $299. A queen bed priced at only $449. This sofa now $499. And save up to $1,000 on patio furniture. Plus, take advantage of Steinhaffel's 18-month 0% financing. Steinhaffel's is Wisconsin's furniture and mattress leader. Shop in-store or online at steinhaffels.com.
Welcome back to the Jump Around 3.0. I'm Jim Rutledge alongside Pablo Iglesias, and we are thrilled to be joined in studio by Ben Brust. Ben, welcome. And we were talking Badger football and all of that, but you're in here because you got a fun event coming up in Madison in a couple weeks here, or maybe months. But tell us about what you got coming up here with the Badger basketball team.
Yeah, believe it or not, I was doing the math. June 26th, it's pretty easy because it's May 1st. Yep. And I was like, holy cow. Yep. May's over, and then I better be ready for the event coming June 26th. I actually was just at lunch and on the Capitol Square, and someone said, really excited to come by for your event, Made Them Believe at the Orpheum. And that's wonderful because really what I love being here with you guys in Madison is a chance to obviously be in Madison. And the excitement of the person talking about the event was talking about the personalities of the players, not necessarily the stuff that happened on the court. We're going to relive everything, right? The on-moment courts, try and get Bo Ryan to say something egregious about the referees from the 2015 championship game, what he would say to them if he was walking out with them instead of Coach K. I think he should have got a technical early and try to reset the tone. We'll have all of that. Plus, I want to dig out the content and the stuff that Josh Gosser, Frank Kaminsky, all of them, they'll be at my bachelor party in a month as well. Might have to capture some footage if I remember to do so. But ultimately, get your tickets at uwhoops2015.com. It's going to be at the Orpheum, June 26th, a live event. Honestly, like if you just go to UW Hoops 2015, it's so easy to just get a general admission ticket and get to enjoy some of your favorites of all time. Because, look, we are living in a world right now where we've talked a lot about Giannis and his future, the one championship there. It's been since 2010 for the Green Bay Packers. The Milwaukee Brewers don't have a World Series. It's been since 1941 since the Badgers won a national championship in basketball. But that 2-year run resonates with so many people in the state and obviously the city of Madison. So happy you guys let me talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, what's that return like, too? I mean, again, for you to get to relive this experience as you guys creep up to that event.
Well, it's a running bit between me and Josh Gosser now that when we're called each other, hey, Josh, good to see you, or hey, Ben, good to see you, and it's the wrong person.
Right.
We just pretend to be each other, which is maybe dangerous because then it's more dangerous for Josh because then I could really just like make stuff up about him and then it goes wild, whereas Josh is just too good of a person. He'll like be really nice about me, where I could just rip on Josh and people be like, man, that guy was a real bleep hole.
You're just defaming your former teammates and friends' characters.
Believe it or not, this is a true story. Gosser and I were together, and somebody called Gosser like Frank Kaminsky, and they were dead serious. And Josh pretended to be Frank Kaminsky, and I don't know how you mix up Josh Gosser and the National Player of the Year, Frank Kaminsky. So all that, just natural banter between us. It's less about basketball and more about the relationships that we've been able to build and continue to tell stories of things that continue to come up in our lives to the audience that shows up at the Orpheum June 26th.
So I want to get to Badger basketball, but I don't want to bury the lead on football. So what we were talking about when you came in here is a lot of Badger fans are worked up that, hey, Chimere Dike was the first former Badger taken in the 5th round there. Graham Mertz gets picked. Then you have Hunter Wohler, Jack Nelson, late picks. Mm-hmm. And a lot of feels about Fickell's not developing his players. Hunter Wohler was a good football player. He just didn't have the measurables, which would be a recruiting issue, not a developing a player. He put numbers up and played good defense for the Badgers. It's just the NFL looked at him and said, I don't think you're a safety. Maybe you can play linebacker. We'll take a flyer on you. So when you look at Fickell, I guess I kind of look at it as that they need to continue, and I think they had a dearth of talent. I think Paul Chris kind of left the cupboard bare, and they need to add a lot of talent to get more draftable players, especially in today's college football where you're not going to develop a guy over 3 years. Like, that's gone. So for me, this is still more of a talent acquisition issue than a development of player issue. And both are involved.
In all of college athletics now, especially the bigger sports that just carry the most revenue and are that out front to the consumer. Basketball and football, if you hear the coaches, they're less and less interested about a high school recruit that is going to come. They're going to pay them to come, and if you don't know they're going to contribute right away, they're going to transfer, and then you wasted all your time recruiting somebody that isn't not going to be able to perform because your job is on the line every single day now. Because if you're getting out recruited in the transfer portal and you're not able to keep your guys, and that becomes a trend, then there's nothing you can do. It's an unfortunate world. You don't have the time to develop players. You just don't.
Right.
And that's why you're seeing a lot of coaches in football and in basketball get out of it, because it's just an impossible task to build a team, build a culture, try and bring guys in from other schools that weren't a part of your culture, and hopefully they fit the culture. Are they able to pick up on the concepts that you're running from a football and basketball perspective? It's a job that pays well, but a job that I don't envy right now in terms of the landscape of college football. As it pertains to Hunter Wohler and some of these guys, Jack Nelson, right? Like, at the end of the day, if they're not good enough to translate to the NFL, I don't think you can put it on Fickle right now. You know, like if Fickle had guys that stayed and then we're going and leaving the program to go to the NFL, that would be a really great sign.
Yes.
He's saying all the right things. He understands I need to win now. I need men ready to play right now, but the results need to follow. And that's where it's like, you got a couple of transfers that came in that transferred out right away. Whether it was the right move for the program or not, I think the aesthetics of it matters more than what happens on the back end, because what Greg Gard has been able to do is show a proof of concept with transfers coming into Wisconsin, which should help, obviously, with the guys that we know that they brought in. And it's like, I have a proven concept of transfers coming into our program and playing really well and being able to achieve something that they weren't at the previous school. Can Luke Fickell do the same thing when right now you're seeing two guys that you had come in tight end and wide receiver, boop, gone within a month?
And so you bring up Gard, and he had a track record of success, and some Badger fans, like, oh, maybe not good enough. But regardless, had a track record of success at Wisconsin, and he'd still made a slight change to how they ran their offense. And so I was going to let you go deeper into it, but because I know obviously from the outside looking in, it looks dramatically different, but you're the one that obviously has a better look on it. But regardless, made a change and then figured out how to recruit and went from, I think fans were in dire straits about the state of Badger basketball, has found a plan and has worked that plan and has updated the way he is coaching the team. Fickell has a massive track record of success, just not at Wisconsin. But, I mean, Coach of the Year in 2021, 2 10-win seasons, 2 major bowl games, college football playoff, all of that before he got to Wisconsin. And he now has made a change, going away from the Dairy Raid and going away from Phil Longo, bringing in more traditional style of offense here. That, along with maybe finding a better niche because they've found bigger players and older players coming in recruiting-wise, that's how I can sell myself that it won't be, I don't think, as instant in basketball because you have to do so much more in football and their schedule is impossible this year. But that's how I'm selling myself that Fickell can write it very quickly with a slight change in how he's coaching the team and the players he's recruiting.
Yeah, in theory,
yes,
right?
Theory, yes.
In theory, it makes a lot of sense, right? Invest into bigger players, change what obviously hasn't been working. That was probably my biggest worry. Was not that I didn't think Fickell was a good coach, but I remember watching him in Cincinnati. I know Desmond Ridder was his quarterback, and obviously he's not a great pro, but he was a really good college quarterback. And obviously I heard you guys talking about Sauce Gardner. I kind of enjoyed watching them play as a small major school, seeing what they were able to do. But I remember watching their philosophies and how they did it, and it didn't seem to match what I was used to. And again, it wasn't as far off as they went initially, right? Going with Longo, and that's not what Cincinnati was about.
Right, yes.
So it was the drastic change that he did in bringing in Longo that set himself back to now trying to figure out, how do I build this right now? Because you're not going to be able to win in every area, right? You're not going to be able to win in high school, transfer portal, and player development and keeping players. You got to figure out what your identity is and what you're going to do. And the same way that I feel like, and I know I'm using a lot of sports here, the Milwaukee Bucks in the second half of the season, they tried to figure out an identity after moving someone who is a staple and will be a Hall of Fame, like a Buck's all-time great. Maybe you have him in your top 5, maybe you don't. Chris Middleton should be in your top 5 for what he was able to do as a Milwaukee Buck. You move on from somebody who's with the franchise for so long, then you bring in Kuzma and KPJ, and you're like trying to figure out who you are in the middle of Giannis's prime of trying to win championships. So now you're trying to change who you are as a football program, be more traditional on offense, have bigger bodies on the defensive front. Is he able to achieve that in 1 year with this schedule to give people enough confidence that he's heading in the right direction? It's hard to convince me that it's going to go well, but at least he's trying to identify how he's going to win in a different way than he did in the past and get the guys that fit that. But golly, that schedule scares me.
He dug himself a hole. But yeah, go ahead, Pablo.
Yeah, Ben. I mean, what do you feel like is a successful season for the Badgers this year for Fickell? Because I mean, the question is he even on the hot seat? Is the seat lukewarm, or is it more of based
At
off of how they
minimum, you have to
perform?
win 7 games. At minimum,
So,
the over/under's 5.5.
Yeah,
right. You got
That's tight.
like you got to get you got to win some that you weren't expected to win, and then you got to win the ones that you've been expected to win as the Badger program has done so. You can't lose to Minnesota, Nebraska, and Iowa all in the same season. You just can't. And again, it's a tough schedule.
I can give it to you. I'm sure you didn't know it off the top of your head, or maybe you did, but obviously it starts off easy. Miami, Ohio. Middle Tennessee State. You got Bama, then Maryland, then Michigan, then you got Iowa, Ohio State, Oregon, Washington, Indiana, Illinois, Minnesota.
Yeah, you got to get 7 wins out of that. I understand like that. There's a lot of teams we can go through right there and be like, oh, well, that used to be a win. You can't talk like that. This is year 3 of a head coach. You're paying a lot of money to drive success for the future of this program, and if it's not going to work, we can't sit around here and be like, yeah, all right, let's try it again next year, because then you just put yourself back even further if what you've been given in terms of a product after 2 years changed, and then it doesn't look like it's heading in the right direction. If you give it another year, then you're setting yourself even further back, because then you got to bring somebody else in and go through the same process of finding what an identity for a football team is. So when I hear that schedule, I know it's tough. I know Illinois is somebody that is probably going to win 8-9 games just because that's what Bielema has been able to prove, and he's getting the right talent to fit his system and whatnot. I think Altmaier is coming back for them. So, I get that Illinois is now better than Wisconsin, but you still got to find a way, not just to compete, but win some of those that get you in that 7 win. We're building something. There's something to look forward to. Let's build off this identity. 6 wins puts you in all right, well, is that a bowl game? Is it not a bowl game? Are you now 6-6, hoping to, you're probably bowl eligible there, but
7 is honestly this weird number that it's a good number, but also it's the bare minimum.
Yes,
it's a weird place to be, and then maybe you can get that 8th in the bowl game, but also you got to look competent.
Correct.
They looked incompetent on offense, and they looked basically exhausted and washed out on defense by the end of the year, and seemed like the team didn't care anymore. So if they can carry it through, and they got 6 wins going to play Minnesota, their entire season could be written differently, just like it could have been last year if you can go to Minnesota and win. I think that's how the year is going to go, is that their season's going to be defined as a success or failure with that Minnesota game at the end of the year.
What feels like to me, too, is that I think we're getting a more raw version. I think we're getting more of the real Luke Fickell from what I'm seeing in the offseason. You have John Gruden come in, and you have him visit the guys, and you tell him, these first 2 weeks, too, with the Middle Tennessee game and also Miami of Ohio, make that the nightmare game, end those guys' dreams. And that I felt like that was really big to have him in there. And then also just when he was on Wilde and Tausch a few weeks ago, and also just what I'm sensing from his press conference availability, I just feel like there's a lot more of a raw sense in Luke Fickell. He's putting it out there. He has
to.
Got nothing to lose.
He has to put himself out there. We can't see him on the sideline being Mr. Laid Back. It's all going to work out, because that strategy hasn't. You need to be more proactive in how you're approaching your messaging outwardly to the media, and hopefully that you see that product on the field come through as well. Oh, man, I really hope, for the sake of the program, that it goes one of which ways.
Yeah.
It either goes really bad or really good, because somewhere in the middle makes it harder for you to make that decision and justify the decision, because you can convince yourself, it was the first year after they changed the way that they're playing, and we see something that might be there to build off of. And then if you have that faith, you go with him. And then if he doesn't win 8-9 games, I'm sorry, I can't sit here after 4 years and say that's acceptable based off the amount of money the football program invested in him as the head coach.
Without a doubt. I want to move to Badger basketball, and I like what they've been doing in the portal. They did add someone a couple days ago with Braden Carrington, another guard, which gives them more depth. They seem a little bit thin in the front court, but I mean, they're very deep in the back court, and they maybe play small and figure out what they want to do. But out of these recruits, and we talked to Ken Levica, FAU play-by-play guy, he said Nick Boyd is that dog, and he's one of those guys who was a leader on that Final Four team that went a couple years ago. He was one of the, I don't know if he was officially a captain, but basically one of those leaders on the team from FAU, was at San Diego State last year, and a bunch of other players coming in. Who excites you? And then also specifically about Boyd, someone with Final Four experience.
I mean, you can just stay on Boyd because I'm blanking on this SDSU coach's name because I really like him and I love the way that they play. It's a slow defensive style.
Yep.
Like I want to say Rick Bucher, and that's I just heard him talking about Giannis. It's gonna when you find.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up here for you in a second. Riley got
Brian Dutcher.
I couldn't hear because I don't have
Brian Dutcher. That's
Dutcher,
right, yeah. Yes.
Bucher,
Yeah.
Dutcher,
Same
Brian
difference.
Dutcher.
Yeah.
Right. Comes from a program, went to a Final Four, very hard-nosed. What this team was missing, if Nick Boyd was here last year, oh my gosh, this team would have been even better because they would have had a true point guard, a true bulldog, a true competitor at that point guard position. They didn't have a point guard.
Right.
They were literally just bringing it up and scoring. And that's when you need in those games somebody to control the pace, control the tempo, control the game. And when games start to get fast, like the BYU game, that's where, again, you want to play fast, but you need somebody who can help be the presence to be like, know the situational awareness of like, we can't keep going up and down. We got to like find a way to get stops because if we're just going to try and lean on Tanjay to win us this game, we're not going to win us this game. Like he's been through and that's what made our 2014 and 15 team so successful is we had been through every scenario in college basketball. He's been through every scenario in college basketball, and he's coming to a team that is something to build on. And so if he can be that rock that you can lean on in terms of he's the point guard, he's running the show, he's moving it up the floor in the pace that Greg Gard wants. But the amount of times that I was watching guards get straight line drives against the Badger team, I know they changed the system, but there's got to be a little bit more defensively. You can't just rely on offense, and it's going to get the right players in to be successful. But a little bit more buy-in on that defensive side takes this to a Sweet 16 caliber team because I think the system is going to work. They're going to score points. They play more fluid. They attack matchups. They have a proven concept. Now, how do you take that proven concept and take it one next step, which is, again, hard to do when you're bringing new guys in. And it's like, all right, how am I supposed to learn concepts of defense in a half a season and then learn it in the middle of the season? At that point, sometimes it's too late.
And then it's effort. And now you're bringing in the guys that will put in the work. And that's where I feel like they're going to continue to lean on, ideally, the older players because you kind of know what you're getting at that point. And I'm sure Greg Gard has great network and he can talk to people and they can tell them, Dusty May coached Nick Boyd and obviously out at San Diego State. So, and other players you talk to, like, all right, this guy seems to have the mentality we need and we'll just have to microwave it when they get here.
Ben, I know another reason why you're here, too, is you're here for the Guarding Against Cancer events as well with Greg Gard and his marquee event, too. And we also get Tom Izzo here in the Madison area. Just tell us a little bit about that. And, just have you met Izzo before? You tight with them at all? You had any conversations with them?
No, I've actually never had in-depth conversation with Tom Izzo other than being really scared that he was going to be mad at me my freshman year. We beat Michigan State at home, and I had the ball – or we had the ball, Wisconsin had the ball, and I came off the bench with a minute left, like getting that like freshman tick or whatever. Yeah. And there was 36 seconds left in the game. That was back in the 35-second shot clock. Yeah. And the game was in hand, but I was so scared that if we turned the ball over, it would hurt our statistics, that when I got the ball in the corner with the shot clock winding down and 1 second left, I hit a 3 in the corner. And I was like, oh, no, like I didn't want to be disrespectful, but I care more about Bo not yelling at us for getting a turnover after the game, so I shot the shot.
Right.
He won't remember that, but what I do know is Gard and Izzo are very close. They have had a lot of conversations in this changing landscape of college basketball, a lot of mutual respect. You don't see other coaches come in to support an event like this, so I'm excited to talk with him. just like thank them for supporting Guard Against Cancer. Over $8 million raised. Like, they continue to grow, and that number is going to grow this weekend, obviously, with their signature event tomorrow at the Colts Center. So I'll be at Coach Guard's house for a little get together. I hope Tom's there. I think he is, and just thank him for being there. And obviously, what I'm most happy about is Guard continuing to find success. I'm with everyone. He needs to get to the second weekend. I want it too, just as bad as everyone else. But he's given himself an opportunity to continue to be a head coach and serve the state of Wisconsin in ways that you like. Look, the money they've raised for the UW Carbone Cancer Center, where all the money they're raising stays in the state of Wisconsin because we have one of the top research institutions in the world. That's really cool. So it's easy to root for Coach Guard as a coach. It's easy to root for the team now as we're seeing a fun change of pace. I needed it too. I'm not going to lie. I needed it. It's been fun to watch, other than driving myself nuts defensively, which I never thought I would watch a game from a defensive perspective, but then see him invest in the state as well with everything he's had gone on in his life with his parents and cancer, being affected by it, and then putting action into this while he's living in a world where he literally cannot shut off his phone because he may miss a call that may mean that somebody else is going somewhere. You're on call 24/7. He's still raising money for the state of Wisconsin.
And that's fantastic, and that's what everyone's loved about Guard. And going forward, he's earned himself some leeway now. I mean, you can't question the Guard recruiting process and being able to build on the fly, no matter what happens. Even if something catastrophic like Blackwell decides to go pro or go somewhere else, like it truly isn't Guard you trust because he's built. I mean, Story didn't work in the end, I guess, but overall it's still a good transfer portal player. Obviously, Tanjay, and then we'll see what happens with Boyd, but he seems to be finding players who can step in immediately and be big contributors. So you have to give him the Guard we trust and give him that leash going forward.
I don't need to reiterate it. You nailed it.
Yeah. All right, Ben, thank you so much. This has been the Jump Around 3.0. Thanks for watching.